This is Pat Daniel coming to you from Memorial Stadium up in Clemson, South Carolina. This is Sports Talk from the stadium brought to you by SC Beef. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Tigers' dismantling of the Owls from Florida Atlantic tonight. The final score was 48-14, home team Clemson Tigers. And they came out, the stats at the end of the game were not really indicative of the scoreboard, kind of opposite of last week when the scoreboard really was not indicative of the game itself, but the stats were more of the story. Well, this week, the Tigers' defense came out to play. A lot of credit should go to Wes Goodwin just right out of the gate. He came in with a game plan. The defense was focused. They executed. The starters, for the entire time they were in there, were really shutting down Florida Atlantic. Yes, Florida Atlantic lost their quarterback, but still, Wes Goodwin deserves a lot of credit. Let's get that out of the way up front. So, opening the game, speaking of that defense, on Florida Atlantic's opening drive of the ball game, cornerback Nate Wiggins came away with a pick six. It turned out to be a 46-yard pick six, back to the house, really got this crowd going. It was a noticeable atmosphere. The field was very different compared to last week's 2 o'clock kickoff against Charleston Southern. Tonight, there was just an electricity in the air that you really only get with night games. Had a lot of folks around me in the press box and people out in the stadium talking about how they wish next week's matchup against the Seminoles would be a night game just so they could have this atmosphere. Now, moving on. After that opening pick six by the Clemson defense, on the Tigers' first offensive possession of the ball game, Cade Klubnik really looked like a different quarterback tonight. It almost looked like he had matured several months in the span of a week. We've heard from Dabo Swinney after the first two games of the year that he just needs Klubnik to calm down. He just needs to take a deep breath, relax. He's still a bit jittery out there, for lack of a better term. Well, tonight he was definitely much more calm, cool, and collected out there. On that opening drive, he led the Tigers on a 9-play, 79-yard touchdown drive, capped off by a 30-yard, just beautiful pass across the middle to a streaking wide receiver, Tyler Brown, who's a true freshman. And this guy has come out and has been electric each of the last few games. He's had at least one or two plays each game that just kind of make you perk up and say, wow, who's that guy? Just a big flash of speed again. But on that, Robert Gunn, his kicking woes continue tonight. Don't know if maybe it was the first time being at home in front of this night crowd, maybe threw him off. But he missed, not on that first touchdown, but he missed the extra point on the second one, which we'll get to here in just a moment. After a failed attempt on fourth down conversion by the Owls on their next possession, Clemson took over with a short field, but then they ultimately missed a 31-yard field goal, again, citing Robert Gunn. And just, I know he's a freshman, but these are really going to start mattering as the season progresses. They mattered in that opening loss to Duke to start the season, and now tonight he missed badly, very, very wide left on that 31-yard field goal attempt in the first quarter. Let's see. Now, the very first play after that missed field goal, nickel or safety Khalil Barnes, who's playing in place of the injured Andrew Makuba. Barnes is a true freshman, and he came in and has just been great. He jumped a route. I don't know if he was reading the quarterback's eyes or maybe he just saw the play developing or whatever it was. He jumped the route and made the second interception on the night for that Tiger defense. And Dabo Swinney told us after the game that this has almost been a blessing in disguise, getting Barnes so much playing time while Makuba's out, because now not only is Barnes getting real game experience, but he is showing that the coaching staff can count on him in big games to go out there and make a play and allow Makuba to get some breathers throughout the year. Now with another short field, Cade Klubnik connected with tight end Jake Briningstool for a 7-yard touchdown. And so now after the first quarter, the Tigers were up 20-0. Again, they had that missed field goal and missed extra point. Those were about the only miscues for that opening quarter. Otherwise, Clemson was solid all around. But you got to have three phases. And that third phase, the kicking game as of right now, is not quite where it needs to be. In the second quarter, Klubnik led a 5-play, 63-yard quick strike drive. Some of the other drives we've seen from the Tigers this year have been more slow and methodical, but this was more of a quick strike, which some Tiger fans are give them glimpses back to the Jeff Scott, Tony Elliott, maybe even Chad Morris days to an extent. But with that, Adam Randall Klubnik connected deep with Adam Randall before eventually Phil Maffa scampered in for a 19-yard touchdown. Maffa looked great on the day. He was bouncing off defenders. He was really doing a good job rushing the football tonight. On the Tigers' next drive, Klubnik threw what a lot of folks refer to, myself included, as a hospital pass, and that was to Troy Stellato, who Dabo Swinney has talked at length about how important Stellato is to the team, but also just he's come back from so many injuries already in his young career, ACL and other such injuries. And he was blindsided on that. He was shaken up after that hit, and that's one thing Klubnik is going to have to start doing a better job of, not leading his receivers into trouble. We've seen at least 1 or 2 passes from Klubnik each of the first 3 games of the year now where he's putting his own guys in harm's way. So you're going to need to kind of work on that a little bit. That'll again come with experience and being able to read the defense, which he's doing a little bit better job each week. After Florida Atlantic's best drive of the night, it ended with a missed field goal. Klubnik now was driving the Tigers back down the field, and this time did a great job of spreading the ball around. It was a 9-play, 71-yard touchdown drive capped by a I'll equate this to the Jalen Hurts Eagles kind of quarterback push play, where from the 1-yard line, folks lined up behind Klubnik, and then the side were kind of able to come in and just help push him across the goal line. Can't imagine that will be allowed for too many more years in the rules. That they'll have to make an adjustment there. But for now, as long as that's allowed, go for it. The defense held the Owls to 94 total yards in that first half. The Tigers built a 34-0 lead at halftime. The Tigers' offense put up 255 yards on offense, and that's along with that pick six. So very dominating first half. Total yardage from 259 for the Tigers to only 94 for the Owls. Again, the defense really came out to play. Wes Goodwin did a masterful job calling the defense tonight. Now in the third quarter, it was a bit of a ho-hum opening few drives of the second half, but then that aggressive Tiger defense forced another turnover and once again jumping the route. This time it was linebacker Wade Woodaz, and he had the pick and returned it for 59 yards. He did not quite make it all the way into the end zone, somewhere around the 10-yard line, but again set up a short field for the Tigers. But for the third time, I don't know again if the quarterbacks were maybe just staring down their receivers, or maybe the Clemson defense knew what play was coming, but either way, they did a great job of jumping those routes tonight. Now, you do have to be careful with that next week against a more explosive offense like Florida Atlantic, similar to in basketball, where you get a back door, you kind of fake out and then go back door. Receivers can do the same thing in football, and you get a double move there. So sometimes if the offense sees that the defense is jumping the routes, that's when you really put yourselves in a bind with a good offense where they're going to hit you long on that double move. Now, after that, Dabo decided to go for it on 4th and 1 from the 4-yard line. This is after that Woodaz interception. Now, 2 lines of thought here. One, personally, I would have thought that maybe you take the approach where you get a chip shot field goal, basically an extra point there, and try to give your young, struggling kicker a bit of confidence going into next week. But maybe Dabo wanted to see the offensive line build confidence and show that they can get those short yardage conversions. But whatever the case was, they were stopped at the 4-yard line, came up empty on that drive. Let's see. But then the Clemson defense came up big again, forced a punt. And here's that man again, freshman wide receiver Tyler Brown, just had an electric 44-yard punt return. He was making guys miss. He was also showing his speed, getting around to the outside. He ultimately was taken down or out of bounds by the punter. But I don't even know if I want to give the punter credit for the tackle there. It was more of Brown kind of lowering the shoulder and running into the punter. Either way, mutual destruction, whatever you want to call it. But now the Tigers once again had a short field. But this time, wide receiver Tyler Brown, that man again, he was able to finish what he started and had a 2-yard touchdown catch from Cade Klubnik. I don't know why I keep saying Kelly. Cade Klubnik. That was their second touchdown connection of the game. Remember, they had that beautiful 30-yard touchdown pass early in the first quarter. Now the backups really started to come in. And in the fourth quarter, Clemson's shutout attempt on defense came to an end after a methodical. It was a really nice drive by Florida Atlantic. It was a methodical 15-play, 75-yard drive with Michael Johnson Jr. punching it in on 4th and goal from the 2-yard line to give them 7 points. Then Tiger backup quarterback Hunter Helms came in, and he responded with his own methodical drive. This one, let me make sure I get this right, 10-play, 80-yard drive capped by a Dominique Thomas 2-yard touchdown run. So it was nice to see the backup offense come in and get some run as well. But then Florida Atlantic did have the final point to the ball game with they did a trick play. For some reason, they waited until the final minute of the game to whip out the trick play, but whatever, it worked, where a wide receiver actually threw for a touchdown, and the final score then here in Death Valley was Clemson 48, Florida Atlantic Owls 14. Some notes on the game: 12 different Tigers caught a pass tonight. That's between tight ends, running backs, and receivers, but still 12 different. Last week, 16 different Tigers caught a ball, but still tonight 12. That's impressive. The The Tigers outgained the Owls 367 yards to 293, but the Owls outgained the Tigers 199 to 112 in the second half. Now, whether that was just a matter of the twos and threes getting in there, or maybe the Tigers took their foot off the gas, or maybe they were gassed, I don't know. But either way, I don't want to hold that against the defense, really, because it's hard to keep that up for 4 quarters, and the starters in the first half really shut down the Owls. But again, it's a 4-quarter ball game. Second half, I doubt Dabo Swinney would be too happy with the fact his team was outgained by Florida Atlantic. But something that Dabo did harp on after the game, and he's harped on this each of the first 2 games of the year, is Clemson won the turnover battle 4-1. And they were aggressively jumping routes on way to those 3 interceptions, including a pick 6. And Dabo told us after the game that his Tigers are tough to beat if they merely tie in the turnover battle. But when they win, they're very, very difficult to beat. They're nearly impossible to beat. Those weren't his exact words, but he was saying that they're damn near tough to beat. A few other notes on the night. I really want to make sure to give Wes Goodwin just masterful performance calling plays tonight. I know he's come under heat each of the last 2 years, but he did a great job tonight. The defense had 2 sacks, but they also had 10 tackles for loss. They were flying all over the field. The secondary was electric. Even without Makuba, you had some young guys stand in and really do a good job. And again, even though they only got 2 sacks on the night, 10 tackles for loss. The Tigers were living in the backfield all game long. And then also freshman Cade Klubnik, he really was a lot calmer tonight in the pocket. He was standing there going through his progressions and doing a good job getting the ball out. We didn't see any of those plays where he kind of panicked in the backfield when facing pressure. He does need to work on, though, and there's always going to be things to work on. I'm not trying to pick on the guy, but something he might need to work on here is those hospital plays where, again, he's setting up his guys just to get destroyed across the middle of the field. And Stelato's lucky. He did come back in the game. Maybe he was just a bit shaken up. Maybe he had the wind knocked out of him. I don't know. But either way, it was nice to see him come back. Another thing after the game, late in the first half, we couldn't see it from the press box, but I had friends texting me, fans in the crowd were tweeting about it, that there was some kind of face-to-face, I don't want to say confrontation, but a heated exchange between running backs coach C.J. Spiller and starting running back Will Shipley. The two of them apparently were basically in each other's faces shouting. Don't know if they actually had to be separated or anything like that, but Dabo Swinney seemed very unconcerned after the game. He claimed that he wasn't even aware of it. Take that with a grain of salt. But he did say that he has all the confidence in the world that Coach Spiller can handle his guys and get that all taken care of. That's it from here in Memorial Stadium. Once again, the final score here on the ball game is Clemson 48, Florida Atlantic 14. This is Pat Daniel with the Sports Talk Media Network. In this segment, Sports Talk from the Stadium, brought to you by South Carolina Beef.